Hey, I got something to say, ladies and women around the world. It's time for me to say, I love you. That's right. I love you guys. You're great. You're awesome. I always tell people I think I have the most amazing listeners, viewers. You supported me throughout the years. And by the way, I just want you to say, you are awesome. I'm awesome. We're awesome together. And I really appreciate it. It means the world to me, right? SuperKate, it means the world,
Yes.
right?
Yes. You're awesome. I'm awesome.
Women
Yes.
supporting women. Oh, it just lights me up. It really does. It,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I can feel the energy and I can feel it getting bigger. And the men around the world that support us, I don't want to forget them because they're amazing. But before we get into it, and we were discussing the most important thing of this entire talk is what SuperKate is going to be for Halloween. Because that's really why we're here, because
Yes,
this is going to
absolutely.
be up on Tuesday, a couple days before Halloween. And by the way, she does not know this, but I have an 1840 Victorian home. So it's
Ooh.
perfect for haunting.
Yes. 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 Nice.
It's crazy. Okay, so here we go. And I am respectful for the little kids. So when little kids are coming up and starting to cry, I turn off the scary things and I take off the hat and then I'm nice. So don't worry if you come to my house. All right. Super Kate spent years in the entertainment industry, managing the lives and prioritizing the physical and mental health of actors and musicians. That was fun, I'm sure. Very ease and flow. After suffering a deep level of burnout because she had been ignoring her own health, it happens. She had been, she dove into movement, wellness, and coaching. Same thing. She combines these lessons and skills to help women balance their ambition and well being. All right, Super Kate, before we get into the one thing that you want to tell women around the world, can you please tell them what you wore last year for Halloween? Because I found it fascinating and they want to know you.
Yes, absolutely. So I am a huge fan of Bob's Burgers, the cartoon show, and uh, the littlest one of the family, Louise, she always wears this bunny ears hat, and she's just got such a dry, like dark sense of humor. I really bond with her in almost every episode. And there was one episode a few years back where she went on a girls' night with her mom and her sister and another woman, and they all got makeovers. But instead of a standard makeover, she got what she called nightmare makeover, which was like, crazy blacked out face with big creepy eyes and a big creepy grin painted all over her mouth and out to her cheeks. So I put that on my face. I wore the pink bunny ears hat and a green top and the shoes, and yeah, it was lovely. I loved
I'm sure that a lot of the kids are really happy to come to your house.
it.
All right, so I can somehow visualize that, Super Kate. All right, the thing that you want to tell women around the world is the more women prioritize their self-care, schedule, peers, sleep, movement, mindset, they'll reach their goals faster. They'll have more joy and we'll see a huge impact, ripple effect out into the world. Okay, so I told people that and they get it
Awesome.
logically. We all
Right.
get it, right? But now let's look at the women who wrote in. And the women that write in, we give them fake fun names. We could call them
Yeah.
Bunny. So we could call them Super Sally. That sounds all great, Super Kate, but maybe you don't know my life. If you knew my life, I think you would understand that would be really, really difficult for me to do that, maybe in a few years. Now, they weren't all like that, but over and over again, we're hearing that.
Yeah.
Job,
Absolutely.
single mom, 3 kids. mother's ill, father's ill, got to take care of them. My partner in life, well, we don't want to get into that. That's a whole nother podcast, but basically they're not helping out as much as they should. So
Right.
let's start with the people that feel like no way, no how right now. Ooh, that rhymes. Maybe in a few years. What do you got to say to that, Super Kate?
There's always something that can shift in your life. And it doesn't have to be the time you spend. It can be where you focus your thoughts. I mean, one of the biggest changes that I made that had nothing to do with my schedule or it was just focusing on how I talk to myself. If I'm talking to myself like I don't have enough time, things are awful,
Mm,
I am buried underneath my work and underneath everything that my family expects from me, that is going to lead you down a certain path of, a certain outlook.
mm,
But if you start talking to yourself, things things are tough right now. And how can I find one thing today that I'm grateful for? Things are really awful, and yet this happened. And just reminding yourself that there is there's an endpoint to all of this.
okay.
There is usually one thing. Maybe you can't like break out a big party and celebrate each day, but there is one thing that you can find that boosts just a little bit of your mental game to get you to the next day. Maybe your kids went to bed on time, or maybe they didn't fight as much. But the more you talk to yourself instead of listening to all of the voices that we constantly hear that want to keep us safe and in the negative and in the expending no energy, the more you talk to yourself, the more you're going to start seeing ways of getting maybe 5 minutes to yourself. Or maybe you just start seeing your whole path as different because we have this we're not going to have clarity around anything until we get out of the stress response. And I keep finding it with my clients and with myself to get out of that stress response easier by talking, whether it's just neutrally about my situation or if I can give it a little bit of a boost instead of listening to how awful things are.
You know what I love about what you just said? You go wake up every morning and go, I'm so grateful to be here. It's all wonderful. It's peachy creamy. I mean, maybe it is that day, but there's times, obviously, these people that it's not. And
Yeah, I was,
stretch it a little. And that's the thing. You're right. The stories we tell are so important, but you have to be really honest with what stories you're telling
yeah,
and start there. So you don't want to go from life sucks to like, woohoo, let's celebrate and have a party every day. But how can you tweak it a little to get there? And
yeah,
that's believable.
yeah. I mean, there are days where I'll wake up and I know kind of what would normally I have, categorized as an awful day ahead of me. But if I just think, hey, I'm breathing today, or I don't have the headache that I went to bed with, like it doesn't have to be a massive shift. And
Yeah.
honestly, most of that is kind of most of that positive thinking, if you try to jump straight to it, is more of the toxic positivity that we want to stay away from because that then you're glossing over your situation. Just simply acknowledging what's happening and saying, this is a moment,
Mm-hmm.
it will change, my feelings about it will change. That's going to like really change how you perceive your day and perceive your life.
So we have to have a talk here.
Yes. I think
No
that's what we're doing,
one's
right?
listening. No one's listening. Just me and SuperKate. All right. So,
Yeah.
and maybe you can help me work through this.
All right.
I'm all about what you said. You don't want to be like, hey, everything's fine when it's not, and it's super toxic. Yeah, I'm happy, never had a bad date. I get it. And I do know there's different people that process differently, and things affect different people differently, how they grew up, their
Yeah.
personality, their habits. I so get it. I think, I'm just thinking of this, that I must be extremely annoying to a lot of people, because how I train myself since a little kid is to be very honest with what I'm feeling, get it out quickly, don't say everything is yada, yada, yada. And then I move through things quicker. And it was almost
Yeah.
a survival mode. So I've been doing that since a little kid. So I experience all that you're saying, good, bad, and ugly. I just have all these processes in place, and I shift through it quicker than maybe the average person. So they
Yeah.
don't see all that I've done, because I don't get stuck there. So most of my life, even when things are bad, to other people, I've already shifted out of it and moved through it. And I think that's annoying. And I mean that in a kind way, because they're like, see,
Yeah.
I'm always happy. I'm not. But they don't know that since a kid, that's what I did to survive. And so it's so ingrained in my brain, I don't know any other way. But I'm not faking that I'm joyful here, which I can understand why they hang up the phone on me. Like, oh my God, don't you have a bad day? I need, and I do, but I don't know how. I don't want to not be who I am, and that is who I am, but I don't know
Yeah.
how that's not annoying to people, SuperKate.
Well, you can't control how people perceive you.
Okay, good, good, good.
I mean,
But
that's,
be helpful to people and not like, you're not me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
but I now listening to you go, oh my God, I want to be shut the heck up. I just want to not have you like that, right?
I people can think that. I mean, I've definitely had a couple people that I now admire who have more of that sort of resilient moving through the emotion. And 3 years ago, I couldn't stand listening to them. I couldn't. And because I mean, part of that's where I was at 3 years ago,
Yes. Okay.
and
Yes.
where where I've started focusing on my personal development, and asking myself why, but also we taking ownership of what is in our
Mm,
control. And we have the opportunity to change a lot of things in our world. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of systems and, you know, situations that are completely out of our control
yeah, they're
and
bad.
are really awful.
Yeah. But
But how we choose to look at our life, how we choose to take or not take action, and I would argue many times how we choose to think and feel about a situation can be in our control. But we do have to take the time to get to that place.
mm,
Emotions are going to happen naturally. If
yeah.
I said something very divisive right now, the audience would have a visceral reaction.
Mm,
You would have a visceral reaction.
yeah.
But do we continue to stay and focus on that moment, rehashing it, and living in that emotion? Or do we say, huh, that was a reaction. Okay, I can either choose to continue to listen to this, or I can choose to turn it off and I can focus my energy somewhere else. I can tell myself this is just one human being and their thought. And
Yeah.
how do I change my world? How do I reflect out to the world what I want to see and be? And that's where that impact comes in. But we can't do that from a place of,
Yeah.
chaos and stress. There has to be an awareness about everything. And it's hard to get there when you're compounded by all of the systems that we have and
Absolutely.
the work that, bosses put us under and our past choices. We kind of have to like get out from under all of that.
I love you. That makes so much that makes so much sense to me. No, and I love the way I can see you thinking about how you're gonna answer. So, you just gave me a light bulb moment in that the people I'm gonna serve have to be ready for me, and there's like you said, 3 years ago, you may have not been ready for a personality like me, and that's okay. So there
Mhm.
are some people, just like you, are going to be drawn because that's where they are in their journey and that's what they're ready for. And you can't control how others perceive you. And you're just going to continue being the way you are. And not everybody's going to be your cup of tea, but that's even more okay that they're not, because this one's going to be great for this person. This person will serve that person. And this is where you are in your journey. And I like the way you said that. It just made perfect sense to me.
Well, good. I
Yeah.
mean, I understand the how difficult it is to not be liked. I've had those moments in my life. I've been bullied. When I tried to be different when I was younger, which at the time compared to today was not different at all. But like I, you know, I have had those moments where I really wanted everybody to just understand and like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the moment that you start going down that path, you are choosing to live for that person's ideals.
Mm.
And that's not going to get you anywhere. And you have this one incredible, like literally impossible life, as in the amount of things that had to line up on a cellular level for even the earth to exist, let alone humans, let alone the how everything lined up for you to be born.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
All of it is so vastly physically impossible that why why do I need to worry about that person's perception of that one moment I had with them? Or I was reflecting the other day about a few people in my past who I'm like, I wasn't who I wanted to be in that, or who I thought I was in those years. Well, all I can do now is show up differently and be the person I
Absolutely.
thought I was.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was listening to a podcast and I would love to get your view on it. It has nothing to
Yeah,
do with what you wrote down, but it's okay.
great.
No. And it was about not having a negative connotation about regrets, meaning,
Mhm.
one of the famous songs, Regrets, I Have a Few, but then again,
Yes.
you mentioned, and this guy, wrote a whole book like saying, no, no, you have regrets and that's okay. It's not like you should beat yourself up or feel bad or feel guilty. The words got to change in so that you can change and move forward, not get stuck there. Say, "Ooh, I would have said that differently. Ooh, I would have done that differently." How do you feel about that?
I have, I think 95% of my life, I have always said I don't have regrets. I think there was a period of time where I began to regret things that I didn't do faster. But I've gotten to this point where a regret is just focusing on what I didn't do or what didn't happen.
Mm,
And there is nothing that is going to change that.
mm.
Um, I I heard a phrase recently, worrying is worshiping the problem,
Oh, I like that one.
right?
That's awesome.
and and so I think like if if you want to move forward, if you want the life that is possible. I mean, so many things factor into what is possible in life, but like if you want to start taking moving towards your dreams or a dream or a possibility right now, but who knows what that's going to bloom into later on.
Right.
Thinking about that isn't going to do any good unless it's that's how I acted. I wish I hadn't done that. Now, how do I change that in the future?
Mm. Yeah, I think for me, the word, and I get what the guy was getting at, but for me, the word regret, it is like a stuck word to me versus I reflect on who I am, how I was the day before, how I can improve upon it in this moment. And that to me is a different feeling around regret. I know what you learn obviously that from mistakes or things you did. It's just like learning in business.
Yeah.
Looking at what you did and how can you move forward. But I truly, truly feel as if the way you do, that I want to reflect upon it, I want to learn from it, because I always want to seek self-growth. I always want to go forward in who I am as a human being. At the same
Yeah.
time, for me, my word has been SuperKate, showing myself grace, because I can be really, which I think a lot of us are, who are caring, wonderful people, especially coaches, therapists, caretakers,
Yeah.
think I teach this. I should know better. What the heck? At your age, you're still doing that? Like, how can you still be doing that same thing? And
Yeah.
I show others grace, but I don't show myself grace. I go, you should know better. I don't know if
Yeah,
you get
that
that.
that was something that a coach had told me, and I have really been talking about in in some of the workshops and talks I've been giving recently, is I can give you all this information on how you can begin a habit or how you can shift this part of your life. But if you don't have grace for that moment and just acknowledgement to move through it, you're going to be stuck. And words mean so much. So if it's not grace, what is it? Compassion? What is it? I I was thinking when you were talking about just the word regret, my dad would be so proud right now. He was very much into linguistics and just how the right word or how words have been taught to us can change things. So I grew up, I'm sure you did too, with regret being like you don't want to regret anything.
Yes,
I
yes.
regret this, and and it's really like you get so, as you said, stuck on that word. Now, what if we hadn't grown up with that word used in that phrasing? So right now we're going more on reflection, which I mean I think is more open ended and possible anyway.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I regret the isn't specifically the problem. It just is a word that's describing a thing that we have attached meaning to.
Correct.
Um, and so if you have a regret, fine, just, oh, it's a regret, whatever. Where are you going with that? How are you reflecting on it? How are you moving forward? And yes, absolutely grace. And it's so hard because we're not taught that at all in this
At all.
side. Yeah. And if we I mean, grace, caring for ourselves, I can only hope for a world that we grow into that uses that as an everyday, like it's just an everyday action that we have. Because the more compassion and grace you give to others, they feel uplifted.
Yes.
And we just don't do it enough for ourselves. And it's but we're gonna get there. I believe we're gonna get there.
I do too. I do
Yeah.
too. Because we all want it. All right.
Yeah.
So golly gee, the time's almost up, and I think golly gee, I don't even know where I came from because I was thinking you're in a small town. So I love this about, and I do this until it's such a habit I cannot do it. I schedule in things that I enjoy for myself. and
Awesome.
until they really kick in. And then, for example, I don't need it. Like, I'm going to work out every single day, no matter what. It's like saying to me, you didn't brush your teeth. Like, it's just, but while I'm building some habit that I don't have, I put it in my schedule.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
important.
Absolutely.
I know you were talking, it's like putting time into your schedule for yourself. It's a reminder that you're worth it. Like, you're just as important as that podcast I'm recording with Super Kate.
Yes. And
There's an and. Okay.
sticking to the schedule
Oh,
because
that's a whole nother
so
ball of wax.
yeah, so many people, and I used to do this too. I have this really amazing thing, in my calendar and in my planner, and then most of it or some of it didn't happen each day.
Yeah.
And so figuring out what works for you to determine when things work for you, how you can track them. I have a couple different ways that I track things in my life. Um, and like both habit trackers and then just tracking what I've accomplished in the day. But once you start realizing, okay, this is what I keep avoiding, or this is what I'm not doing, maybe I'm doing 10 minutes instead of the 20 minutes I allotted for it. Why is that? And then coming back to that, reflecting, but not judging, just reflecting on, okay, how can I change this in the future? Yeah.
That reminds me of another statement I heard somewhere along the way from some magnificent guest is that, how they used to say it takes 21 days, or you hear these things to create that new habit, blah, blah. And then they're like saying, that's so not true. And I always thought that, because it depends on what are you trying to change? How long have you been doing it? Who are you as a person? And then it could take anywhere from 18 on average, this is average, 18 to 266 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you motivated to do it? How much are you trying to accomplish? It's so much of it. And is your life like, what happens if your life veers off track for a couple weeks?
Yeah.
Then you veer off that track and you have to. So yeah,
Like you had
I
this, said you had a habit tracker or something.
so
I don't know.
here, I'm gonna grab this.
I couldn't make
Um,
it up. Yeah.
because I used to start out with like a little Google Sheets, spreadsheet thing with tiny little things on it that I would little cross out, and I just felt no excitement about that.
Yeah.
But I started doing this where I printed out a giant calendar, and now I get to like make the biggest mark here to say that's what I did that day. And there's
Ah,
something satisfying. I mean, this is just one of like three things that I do, but
yeah.
that is like a very, and because it's on my wall, I get to see it. But I'm like, oh, yeah, I really did this today. And it feels like I really did it instead of,
Yeah.
a little check.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the other thing that I learned recently, and this has been one of the biggest hits of my workshops recently, but I'm going to give this all, I mean, you all get to have this because it's free information. Um, if you whatever calendar system you use, perhaps in your system you have things different colored. So like
No. Yeah, I do.
appointments have one and everything has a different color.
Yeah.
As you go through the day, mark the things that you actually did in green. And if
Green.
you didn't do it, mark it as red. And then at the end of the week, not only do you feel like, oh, look at all the stuff I did, what
Yeah.
didn't I do?
Yeah. Yeah. Why
And
don't you
that's
pick up
a
the colors?
yeah, it's a very obvious, like,
Yeah.
picture of your week. It's such a simple way to track it too. So,
I'm thinking I'm looking at my calendar here, and I'm such a visual person. So I get so excited that I use colors that make me happy. Green is one of my favorite
yeah.
colors, happens to be. And it makes me feel good about what I did. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You're right. I don't just type it in. You have to do what works for you. I mean, everyone
Exactly.
does tracking differently, but it has to motivate you. But you should see, I have pink, I have orange, because it makes me happy when I do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can change whatever color you want. I mean, there was a period of time. So I like black. I wear a lot of black, all black, honestly.
Yeah.
But there was a period of time where when I was doing this, on the days I missed, I would put pink because
Oh my God.
I didn't want to see pink on my calendar. But
Oh, I see. I
yeah, I
don't like black.
stopped doing.
Black is not my color. So I would be like, oh, I saw black. Oh my God.
Exactly, exactly. So like you got to find what works. And currently with my Google setup, they don't have a black enough that I want to use.
Oh
But
my
in so I'm doing the green and the red for right now. But when they start changing their colors around a little bit, you can, yep,
God. All right,
yeah,
we gotta go. I love you.
yeah.
I'm so glad we connected.
Yes.
I have to
Thank
ask
you.
you just a few curiosity questions because
Yeah.
I'm all into art. Do your tattoos have meaning? Like, is there like, oh, I just felt like it, or is like there's stories behind them?
Um,
Not that I can get into every one of them, but I just
yeah, I would say about half of them have meaning and half and 40% were because I like it. And
yeah,
then there's like the 10% were just, this is just ridiculous and fun. Why not?
yeah. Oh, so
Yeah.
it's all different. Like some have
Yeah.
meaning, some look
Yeah.
cool. Like, hey, why not?
Yeah. I never expected to have a why not. And then because of a dance I did with some friends, it inspired a very specific tattoo I have on my left ankle. And yeah, I was like, this is definitely a why not. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now are you still moving forward with finding spaces for things, or are you like, yeah, I'm cool for now?
Oh, I have plenty of spaces. I just don't know what to do next. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
I
my,
mean, it may not look like I have a whole lot of space, but I have plenty of
I
space.
couldn't
Yeah.
tell. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
oh, you got space on that arm. A lot of
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cool. All right, where were we? Oh, we got to wrap up. So before we go, I knew this would be awesome. Tell them how they can find you. How can they work with you? Where are you?
Yeah. I'm kind of on the interwebs like most of us. So I've got a website, thesuperkate.com, superkate.com, or you can find me on Instagram at the_superkate. You can find me on LinkedIn. I love working one-on-one with people. You can also book just a discovery call to see if we're a good match. But I really just I want to support women because we need the support.
Mm.
And I honestly believe that there is a way for you to have the impact that you want to have in the world. And so whether I'm the good person to help you with that, or if I know somebody who is the right fit, I want to help make that possible.
And I feel that from you in every ounce of your being. Super Kate on my nose. By the way, I was so excited. I have something going on with allergies or whatever. And right before I came on, I was delayed because I was sneezing nonstop. And guess what? I didn't sneeze once. Woo!
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
All right. My hey, I got something to say, people. Super Kate and I would really appreciate you rating, following, sharing it. Come on, you know so many people you want to share this episode with. Oh, yes. And the men around the world to support us. We love you. And you know what I'm going to say. Until next time, bye, Super Kate, and toodles.